Hey guys, this is Ted again. So, I said I'd talk a little bit about donor cars and why I decided to go the donor car route. I'll also give you a couple of tips for what's worked really well for me and why I think that for some people that this is the right route. So, when you buy a Factory 5 Roadster, they offer it in two forms. The first one is the base kit, and then the second one is the complete kit. The complete kit is around $7,000 more, and what they say with the complete kit is that if you buy that, all you need are the are the engine, transmission, and rear axle out of a Mustang. And there's some things that it obviously comes with more parts. There's some upgrades that it comes with off the bat, like the 3-link rear suspension instead of the 4-link, which is the base, which is what you get with the base model, unless you pay for that upgrade. When you take a look at it, it's a good value if you're somebody that either wants all of those options in the first place, or if you're somebody that maybe building a car is a bit more of a stretch for you in terms of your experience level. Maybe there's a lot of people who build these things that actually have really never turned wrenches before in their life, or not on cars anyway. Maybe they've got mechanical ability, but they aren't used to working on cars. So if you're one of those people, the complete kit makes sense. I've been wrenching on cars for 20 years, so for me the base kit I thought made more sense. There were some items that were in the complete kit that were nice to have, but not things I really cared about. And I'm tracking towards a total build cost of somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000, which is really pretty low for one of these cars. So, this is the second donor car that I bought. It's a '95 Mustang. Trying to stay out of the wind because it's kind of breezy today. As you can see at this point, it's been fairly well picked over. When I bought this car, it was not driving. The guy said that it needed a clutch when I bought it. When I got the engine started, it ran. It made a lot of noise. When you push the clutch in, the noise changed, but it wouldn't disengage. So that kind of sounded like a throwout bearing at first. What it actually was, I'll walk over here and show you the remnants of it, was not a throwout bearing. So if you look over here, I've got two crankshafts standing. They're both 302 crankshafts. You notice one's a lot taller than the other. So this actually came out of another donor engine that from my first parts car. This is the one that came out of the engine from this gray primer car out there. And what happened was the crankshaft broke down here at the bottom. Using this crank as a reference, it was around this area, and so that was quite interesting, and it explained all the symptoms. But that engine wasn't going to be usable as is, which is okay. I was planning on rebuilding the engine anyway, and I'll do another video on what I'm doing engine wise. But so that was an issue. These are the remnants of the T5, and I'll talk a bit more about transmissions in another video. But my plan was I was planning on rebuilding the engine, which I still may do. Well, I'm not doing now actually. I was planning on rebuilding the transmission, which I'm not doing. The rear end is actually the only major part that I'm using out of it. And so this sort of gets to a tip when you're buying a parts car. What I found works really well is look for a parts car that has one thing that you really want, and maybe a few ancillary things, but one major thing. So in this case, I was buying this car because it had 373 gears in the rear end, and I was hoping to just use it as is. Turns out I couldn't, but still, my thought was that's the part I actually am planning on using. I wasn't planning on using the engine and transmission, then I was for a while, and then I went back to decided not to. But the real thing with the parts car is that you're not going to use all the parts out of it. There's some things that you need. There's a lot of things you don't. And because of that, you're able to sell off the things that you don't need to other people. So this parts car right now has cost me a total of $25. and it's actually going to go down to 0 and then a negative number because of all the parts I've sold off of it. I sold the hood. I sold some of the suspension components that I'm not using. I sold the rear brakes because I wasn't going to reuse those. I've sold a bunch of the transmission parts. I can't remember all the things that I've sold, but this, in the end, I've got this core rear end for free. A couple other parts that I am using, I'll walk over here and show you. And these were a couple of the other reasons why I decided to buy this car. Were the this is the pedal box, pedal assembly, brake and clutch pedal, and then over here's the handbrake. As a bonus, this car had a lightweight starter on it, which is great. I was planning on using a lightweight starter anyway, and so that saves me from having to buy one. So I've gotten, let's just say, $500 worth of components off of this thing for free, and it's going to end up being less than free. Negative. I'm going to get paid for it. My first parts car was an '87 Mustang, and I sort of bought that. In that case, I bought it for the set of Edelbrock Performer aluminum cylinder heads on it, and I went into it hoping I could use some other stuff. This is the block out of it, and you can't tell from looking at it. The block itself is actually a desirable block. It's one from the 70s that was one of the stronger 302 blocks. The problem with it is that the cylinders have been bored 50 over, which is a lot, and one of the cylinders has, they don't have any cross hatching on them. One of the cylinders has a pretty bad scrape in it. So this block is junk. I mean, I'll probably turn it into a piece of furniture at some point. But with that other car, again, my goal was to get the cylinder heads, and I basically bought that car for what the cylinder heads cost new. Same kind of deal as this car out here. I sold enough parts off of that car that I ended up getting paid $75 for the cylinder heads. The cylinder heads cost me negative $75. So obviously I wasn't going to just throw them on there at the machine shop right now. They needed a valve job. And then they're going to reassemble them with the right springs for the cam that I'm using. But if you can find a car that's got something that's sort of unique that you're looking for, and you think you can sell enough of the other parts off of it, and you have the space, obviously our neighbors don't care if we have parts cars sitting in the driveway, and neither does my wife. Some neighborhoods that'd be harder to get away with, but for me, I've gotten over $2,000 worth of value for free by using these parts cars and then selling them off. I probably wouldn't recommend going the donor engine route unless you've got something where you can really verify the history on it, because the problem with most Mustangs is that they've been beaten pretty badly, and if you're putting in a used engine that has been beaten up, it's not going to help you long term. Or even if you look at the transmission here, this gear is not too bad, but it is kind of bad. I'm trying to find, I don't know where, is that second gear? I don't think that one's second gear. Oh, there we go. Is this it? Well, anyway, I'm not going to mess with it now, but obviously I don't know my gears on the T5s by sight very well. But when I took the transmission apart and I was looking at it, some of the gears were pretty worn, and I just basically looked at it and I said, this is gonna be, by the time I looked at what it was going to cost to rebuild it and build it right to withstand the power, I wanted to do a T5 because of the weight savings, but I ended up getting a fantastic deal on a TKO over here that I'm going to be going with. But if you can go into buying a parts car such that the worst case scenario is that you can sell enough to break even and have it cost you nothing, and then hopefully you get some value out of it. To me, that works well. Obviously, it takes more time and effort if you do that, because I've had to pull two engines and drivetrains, two engines and transmissions, and a number of other things as well. But so there's an extra time investment required. But if that's okay for you, then and you got the mechanical know-how that you're comfortable doing things like that, maybe rebuilding some of these components, you can save a lot of money, and it's worked really well for me. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more.